I don't have a very detailed presentation for today because I thought we'll make this more of a question and answer thing. But some months back, I think in November, I had done a session on a similar topic, but that was more that in that session, I didn't actually cover visas in detail. We only went into the details of the finances that you needed to show to the university in order to get your I-20. So I'll just briefly go over that. I'll just present that. Just give me a moment. I'll start that presentation. Mhm. Okay. I guess you guys can see the presentation and you can hear me too. Fine. So let's start with this. I won't go into the details of this presentation, but what I'll do is I will directly skip over to some of the relevant topics in this. Okay. Yeah. To begin with, I mean, some of you here might have received your admits. Some yes, Rishikesh, this meeting is getting recorded. That doesn't mean that you should just drop off and watch the recording. But yeah, in case you have something else to do, which is a little more important, you can do that. So yes, I'm recording this. I'll be posting this on YouTube and I'll be sharing the link by today evening. Uh, okay, yeah. So now some of you have already received admits. Some are in the process of getting admits. Some have received admits from some universities, and you're still waiting for your final university. I mean, the most preferred university. Uh, so I thought this is the right time that you start thinking about the I-20, getting your I-20, and um, eventually applying for the visa. Now, earlier, till last year, what used to happen, or there have been some small changes in the visa process. I'll first discuss that and I'll tell you why they are important to you. Earlier, if you had an admit, say you had an admit from one university and you got an I-20 of that university, you could use that I-20 to book your visa, and then when you got say if you get a your an admit from your preferred university or another university which you decide to go to, you could then on the day of the visa change your university. Okay. And so there was no way to do it in the system unless you requested the visa officer to do it for you or the people at VFS. So the process worked this way. Say suppose you had an admit from say Northeastern University. Um, you got an I-20 for Northeastern, booked a visa date using that I-20, and then sometime in the process, in the duration, say maybe you booked a date for end of May, and then maybe sometime in April, uh, say USC gave you an admit and you decide to go to USC, all you had to do is get an I-20 from USC, and on the day of the visa, when you actually went for your visa interview, you had to tell the visa officer or the people at the VFS at the visa consulate saying that I want to change the university details in my application, and can you do that? And they used to do it for you. Um, but now I mean, the US consulate has come up with a rule saying that we will not make changes, or because these requests were coming too often, they said that they will not be making any changes in your visa application. This thing, the only way for you to do it is you cancel your appointment and book a new appointment. Now, this is a statement that they came up with sometime in the month of I think December or January. Not sure how strictly would they implement it. So again, if it comes to that, if you really are in that situation, one thing you can definitely do is that you can cancel your visa appointment and book a new one. If you cancel your visa appointment, it's not that you lose money. Your visa receipt will automatically get activated, but you will lose that date that you already have got. So it will mean that you are rebooking a new date. That's the only challenge in that. Till pre-COVID times, getting visa dates was never a challenge. Post-COVID, getting dates has become very difficult. So earlier, everybody used to follow the same process. Like they used to just cancel the appointment and rebook a new one because dates were always easily available. So if you had a visa appointment next week and you cancelled it within the next 2 weeks, you could find a visa date. So, but now after COVID, people are very scared to cancel the visa dates. Visa dates have become a big issue. Hopefully, things will be better this year. But yes, now the visa consulate has issued a statement saying that we will not make any changes to your visa application. The only way to do that is you cancel it, make those changes, and rebook a new appointment. So that is about it. So now, if you really want to book a visa date, I would recommend that you wait for an I-20 of the university that you want to go to, rather than using a different I-20, booking a visa date, and then um, trying to make the requesting the VFS, or not, sorry, VFS, the what do you say, the people at the OFC center or the visa consulate to make that change for you. This also, I mean, one of the reasons why they actually came up with this rule is because a lot of agents used to then book appointments for students using fake I-20, or I mean, someone else's I-20 or some other I-20 number, which was not really even the student's I-20 number. So a lot of agents who used to take money from students and say we will book a date for you. So whenever dates open, they used to use some random I-20 number and book it for students. Uh, so these cases started increasing a lot, and that's the statement that the consulate made, saying that that's the reason why we are doing these changes. So now, but yes, in case someone, any of you is in a situation where you have an I-20 and you really want to book a date because you still are not getting the I-20 from the preferred university, and that maybe we are in the month of June, then maybe we can probably look at that on a case to case basis. But as a statement, I would say don't try to book your visa appointment using an I-20 of one university and then trying to change it on the visa date. It may not happen. That will not mean that your visa is rejected. The visa officer will just tell you that we cannot issue your visa right now. You rebook the whole appointment, which will only mean a slight delay in your process. It's not a big deal. But then once you attend the visa interview and then you have to rebook the visa, then you don't get your visa application fee is not refunded. If you cancel your visa appointment before your visa date, or you don't attend your visa interview, your visa application fee is fully refundable. So that's the only challenge in following this route. If you probably still want to take your chances and go ahead and do that, you may just have to repay the visa application fee again. That's the only challenge in that. Now coming back to the I-20 part, to get your I-20, you have to show funds of 1 year, which means that you have to show whatever is the estimated tuition for 1 year as mentioned by the university, and 1 year of living expenses. There are a lot of rumors, or rather in forum, students will say that you have to show 1.5 times of the I-20 amount. No, it is not 1.5 times, it is exactly the I-20 amount. So if the I-20 amount for a university say is $52,000, you have to show $52,000. Even if it is a dollar less, the university will say you are falling short by a dollar. Please reissue, get a new statement. If it's equal or more than the I-20 amount, even if it's a dollar more or even if it's a penny more, they will issue an I-20. So there is no restriction on how much more to show. You can show 10 times more, you can show just $1 more. It's all the same. Issuing the I-20 is only an administrative process. I mean, nobody makes a decision there. The only decision that they make is whether your financial documents are valid. And when I say valid, in the sense, there are a few things that they accept as financial documents. And if the amount mentioned in those financial documents is more than the minimum I-20 requirement, that is the only two things that they'll be checking. They don't really care how much funds you have, whether you really are going to use that funds to pay for your education and all that. Who is your sponsor? They don't really bother, as long as there is a name of a sponsor and the sponsor has signed the sponsor form. That is the only thing they'll be checking. Okay. Uh, Generally, these are funds that are accepted, and as I said, it can be in any sponsor's name. And these are things that are not accepted. So bank balance is accepted. fixed deposits are accepted. If you are getting a letter against fixed deposits, then or against PPF for that matter, um, it is always PPF. Some universities may or may not accept, so it depends on the university again. Now, again, if you're getting a letter against fixed deposits or PPF, it is very important that you mention a statement in that letter saying that the funds available in these accounts are available to you without any restrictions or penalties. So generally, if you're showing a combination of bank balances, like you're showing some money in savings, some in fixed deposits, some in PPF, make sure you mention the statement, or make sure you tell the bank to mention the statement that the funds available in fixed deposits or the above mentioned deposits are available without any restriction. So as long as you mention this, that is, most universities will accept fixed deposits. In fact, almost all universities should accept fixed deposits, and some universities will still accept PPF if you have the statement mentioned. Sometimes, in the case of PPF, right, there might be a specific amount that is there in the PPF account, and there is a withdrawable amount that is possible in that PPF account. If you can mention the withdrawable amount, which of course might be lesser than the total amount that is there, it depending on when your PPF is going to mature. There are limits on how much can you withdraw. It can be 60%, it can be 70%, or whatever it is. Ask the bank to mention that out of this, maybe say you have 10 lakhs in the PPF, out of that, maybe 7 lakhs are withdrawable at this moment without any restrictions. Ask the bank to mention that if you are using your PPF account to demonstrate funds. And of course, loan sanction letters are accepted. As far as US visas or US universities go, there are no restrictions on the type of bank that are accepted. I mean, any bank is accepted, credit societies are accepted. So it could be a cooperative bank, it could be a private bank, it could be a nationalized bank, it could be a foreign bank. Any bank is fine. As long as the letterheads are in English and the letter is also typed in English, and it should have the stamp and signature of the bank. And I mean, when I say signature of the bank, some bank manager's name should be mentioned on it, and there should be a signature. So that is what is required. I had in the past sent you formats of the bank letters that you can get. Some of you might have it, some of you may not have it. I'll, after this webinar, I'll resend those. I also will send you, I mean, I'll share a document on the entire process of how to get your I-20. You can read that. That has samples of the bank letters as well. And I also have a video on this topic. You can maybe watch that as well. It's a short video. But any questions so far on the I-20 process, or on something that some questions that you have about getting your I-20?
One clarification, Jay.
Yeah, Varun.
The I-20 amount, okay, and the visa amount which we show is exactly the same. There is no difference between them, right? I just need to clarify that.
Um, so let me put it this way. There is no amount that you need to show for the visa. The visa is not going to be based on financials. I'll come to that point a little later. Visa
Okay.
officers are not going to check your bank balances. They are not going to check any financial documents on your part. They are going to ask you a few questions on how do you plan to fund your education, and that you will have to explain to them how do you plan to fund your education. They are not going to ask you how much is the money in your bank account, how much is the money in savings and fixed deposits and all that. Okay. uh, so we will discuss that visa part a little later in a little while. And but yes, when it comes to I-20, universities are very particular about how much funds are required, and they follow a very strict process on that. So as I said earlier, if the amount is say 52,000, some $240, as long as you show 52,240 or $41, you will get the I-20. If you show $1 less, you will not get the I-20. They'll send you saying that your balances are insufficient by $1. So you can either then correct those letters or just provide a new bank statement which shows that at least there's $1 in the account, and they'll issue that item. So this
Okay.
is how it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Coming to, I think someone has a question here. Uh, Only financial documents are required for I-20 and no other documents. Laukik, yeah, only financial documents are required for the I-20. See, every university has a financial form. So you have to fill that form. That form might require you to sign it. They will ask you whether the money is in your personal account or is in the name of a sponsor. Um, if you say that there is a sponsor, and sponsor is any person other than you as an adult, any person other than you, which could be your parent, which could be your brother, sister, uncle, aunt, anybody is your sponsor. Okay, so if the money is not in your account, then there is a section on that form which says sponsor signature, and the sponsor will have to give in their name, detail, name, address, and will have to sign that form. That is all is required. So Vaidhi has a question here that can you have multiple sponsors? So yes, you can have multiple sponsors. There could be more than one sponsor. Um, Probably three sponsors is okay. If you have four, it should still be okay. If you have more, I mean, you can. I mean, there is no restriction by the US government or anybody on how many sponsors should be there. But as a rule, I would say keep it restricted to three in the uh, I mean, in the worst case scenario, four is also okay, but don't try to bring in more sponsors. Some universities might say that there are too many sponsors and all that, but up to three sponsors is absolutely fine. Um, Now, again, Loki, coming back to your question, any other documents? If you are the document that you'll need is of course a passport, copy of your passport, the financial documents which show that there are funds available. I mean, whatever you mentioned in the financial form, in where the funds are, if you're showing sponsor fund, if you're showing that saying that it's a loan, then the loan letter, that is all is required. Nothing, no other additional documents are required to get your I-20. So, a lot of people are typing in questions. You could just turn on your microphones and ask your questions. I mean, that sometimes becomes a little easier. But I'll just take in then I'll just read out the next question. Rahul has a question. Can we have fixed deposits in multiple bank accounts? Yes, you can have fixed deposits in multiple bank accounts. You can have, so it could be multiple sponsors and multiple bank accounts of those sponsors, right? So if you have three sponsors, each one has say maybe two or three accounts in different banks. You could get two or three letters from different banks. So the total uh, of the funds that you show should be more than the I-20 required. Now again, there is no rule on how many accounts can you have, but per person, if you're showing more than five accounts, then it began you're showing three. That means you'll have to show 15 documents, 15 letters. If you can keep it less than 10, that is always better. Too many documents can sometimes be a little confusing for the person to evaluate it. But yes, you can show. I mean, as long as you are just showing four or five bank accounts, right, split across two or three people, I think you are perfectly fine. They were I mean, I'm not sure which. So sometimes, universities say that bank account deposits maturing before that. So it is very important that when you are getting a letter against fixed deposits, you have to show you have to mention what is the withdrawable amount as of today, and clearly mention that there are no restrictions on the withdrawal of these funds. I have very rarely seen, at least US universities don't have restrictions on the date of maturity of the fixed deposits. I mean, if a particular university is specifically saying that, maybe you can share that link with me and I'll also check what exactly are their expectations. But generally, most universities don't have restrictions on when your fixed deposits mature. What they have is the withdrawable amount. So most banks, when they issue letters for fixed deposits, right, they would issue it against your principal and not the final value or not the maturity amount. Some may not even calculate, some might calculate the value as of today. So, for example, last year, if you booked a deposit of 10 lakhs and that is maturing in say 2 years and you're basically getting 12 lakhs out of it. But today, the value of that deposit, I mean, if you probably try to break that or liquidate that deposit today, the value comes to say 11 lakhs, then they would put in a value of either 10 lakhs, which was the initial amount, or 11 lakhs. they will not write the value of 12 lakhs or the maturity amount in that letter. Most banks will do that. So even if they put in 10 lakhs or 11 lakhs, they have to very clearly mention that, I mean, they have to put in a statement that there are no restrictions or penalties on the withdrawal or premature liquidation of these deposits, or the funds available in the deposits can be withdrawn by the customer at any point without any penalties or restrictions. So as long as some statement that gives a very clear indication that these funds are easily available to you is mentioned, most universities should accept that. Um, I-20 is for 1 year, but the course is for 1.5 2 years. How do we request banks for loan amount for 1 to 2 years? I was told by some banks that they will have loans equal. So generally, most banks which are silent, which give education loans, right, or which have been giving traditionally loans to US students, are aware of the fact that the course duration and the I-20s are for 1 year, and the course durations are not going to be 1 year, or that is the case. I don't know which banks have actually told you this, but generally the banks that some of my students have worked in the past. I mean, of course, HDFC, the private banks are very aware of this. HDFC Credit knows this. Even for that matter, if you look at the public sector bank, Union Bank is has very good loan products that you can consider. uh, State Bank, Punjab National Bank, look at it. But what happens is sometimes, so the problem with most of these banks, right? I'll tell you, and especially the nationalized bank, is that these banks at the branch level are not very, what do you say? In many cases, right? They are not very proficient in handling education loans because they don't get so many requests for education loan unless it's a very big popular branch kind of thing, right? So the branch manager or the people who handle education loan at a branch level, their job is ideally to just collect the documents, and they just pass it on to the central office, which processes the education loan. So if you look at State Bank also, all their Mumbai education loan processing happens at their core branch. I think they have a branch in Andheri, which is not like a branch, it's like their office in Andheri which processes that. Now, if you go to a branch level, sometimes the bank managers just collect the documents and send it to you. Sometimes these branch managers do a lot of scrutiny, which they are not supposed to. And even if they are supposed to, they should probably first understand the process, which sometimes they don't. Because education loans, are not a very popular product at the branch level. They are more interested in giving you housing loans, vehicle loans, and all those things, which you will see a lot of banners also outside these banks. But you will rarely see State Bank or even PNB advertising about. PNB does it to a little extent, advertising about their education loan products because they don't get so many walk-ins for those. So sometimes it is more like the branch manager doesn't know, and that is why I generally recommend that even if you are applying for a loan, you could use the link that I had shared with you. With that, what happens is your application gets directly to the loan office and not through a branch. So there, it becomes easier for you to, if they need specific documents, then they would only give you the list of documents that they really need. Uh, because even in the case of US universities, right, very few universities will actually mention the course of, I mean, the duration of your course on the website or anywhere else in print. Sometimes if you write to them, they might reply back, but sometimes their replies are also vague, and I don't blame them. Is because the number of the duration of your course, actually, as I had mentioned earlier also in one of my sessions and in some of my videos also, depends on the number of credits that you take in a semester. So for example, if your course is 36 credits, right, you can do 12 credits in fall, 12 credits in summer, and then you really want to do 12 credits in spring, or you can do 15 credits, 15 credits in spring and fall, because you are allowed to take up to 18 credits in a semester as an international student. Most students take 9, some do 12, but and 9 is the minimum in most, as per the US law, 9 is the minimum. You can go up to 18. So if you really want to, I mean, you want to burden yourself with extra credits and finish off your program in 1 year, you can do that. So that's why universities will never say that this course is a 2 year duration course, because the duration ideally is something that you decide. Under normal circumstances, most students take 1.5 to 2 years to finish a master's. But again, if you really want to, you can stretch it to 2.5 also. So there is nothing called duration of the course in the US, and that's the reason why universities don't explicitly mention that. Sometimes they might word it vaguely that most students take around 2 years or 4 semesters to finish our program. But again, it is going to be up to you. So that is why you are in some of these Indian banks who are not very, who don't have, who are not, what do you say, where education loan is not their prime product, or at least at the branch level, sometimes find it a little difficult to understand what you are telling, because the I-20 says 1 year and there is no document which says what is the duration of your course. So, but yes, again, most popular banks should not have that problem, because they are, if they have been disbursing education loan to US students, many times they will not ask you these, but sometimes they might. But again, Sahil, if you have some specific bank and maybe for your university, if some information is available on the website, or you can write to the coordinator and get that information, the bank should accept it. Uh, so Kshitij, again, in case of sponsors, we will require an affidavit. So there is no affidavit. So when you use the term affidavit, there is no affidavit that you might have to prepare from a lawyer or from a court affidavit on a stamp paper. Many universities have a form which has a sponsor certification, or which themselves, which is also known as the sponsor affidavit. So on the financial form only they will have to sign as your sponsor. Some universities will ask you to get a letter from your sponsor on a separate paper, which will be on just a single sheet of paper. You can just write and get a signature. Now, wherever they ask for sponsor signature, the signature has to be in pen. You can't just type the name of the sponsor. So just remember that. But there is no affidavit as such you will have to prepare. You don't have to go to get a stamp paper and get a notary and get those affidavits done. That is not what is required. The universities abroad will not even recognize your Indian stamp paper, and most universities will not ask you to get a notarized affidavit. So
Hello.
yeah, they were.
Oh, yeah, I have a doubt. Actually, say my sponsor, let's say my mother, her name in two banks is a little bit different. In one bank, her name is Hetalben Joshi, and in the other bank, her name is Hetal Nirupam Joshi. So, in that case, if I arrange documents from both the banks, then I guess there will be a problem, right, in the name. So, do I need an affidavit in that case, or
Ideally, you don't need all that. If the bank can just write Hetal Joshi and skip that middle name part, that will
okay?
solve your problem. But let's say banks, like, sometimes they like to be very adamant. So they will say, no, we will put it as it is on the account. You just get that letter and send it. Most universities will not create a problem with this name. As long as, and what your mom can do is, in the sponsor form, right? She just says Hetal Joshi.
Okay.
Okay, so just skip that middle name part. Okay,
Okay.
so I think that part should be fine. Again, they are not going to, nobody is going to ask you for your parents or sponsors' passports or any other documents. So don't worry about that as well. So names are not such a big issue. Sponsors' names are not such a issue. So even if you get it from two banks and the names are slightly different, because sometimes some banks could have, I mean, a middle name for many people and some don't. So in your case, kind of the middle name is going to be a little different, or unless they put it as one Hetalben, as they put it as one word, uh, which is also okay. Generally, it should not be a problem.
Okay.
Why they can mutual funds be shown as a source of funds? Most universities will not accept mutual funds and shares. They will, very few universities accept that, and even if they do, they would accept, they have restrictions on um, whether how much can be accepted. So for mutual funds and equity investment, they say they can accept only 70% of the current market value. But so you have to get a letter from your depository or wherever you maintain your demat accounts, kind of thing, on what is the current value, and some may accept. But most, I would say almost 70% of the universities do not accept mutual funds or shares as source of funds. Some do, and if they do, they accept. They have a limit on how much can they accept. Okay. Any further questions on the I-20 part of it? Okay. So let me just quickly. I think I'll stop the presentation. And we'll just mm, so what so another thing I wanted to talk to you about education loans. So there are a lot of options for education loans currently available, and I would say choose responsibly, because some of the education loans that are coming up in the market, especially by nationalized banks, are coming out to be a little cheaper than some of the private ones. But there are again, like for example, the most popular one in the market, which has always been, is HDFC Credila. They are definitely a good company to get an education loan. Very reliable. I mean, generally, I have not seen any student having any major issues or complaints with HDFC in terms of disbursement, or in terms of once the loan is sanctioned, the disbursement and all other processes happen pretty smoothly. But when you are selecting an education loan, there are a few things that you should consider. Uh, First is, of course, the processing fee part. That, I mean, I'm just talking about the costs that are involved in education loans. One is, of course, the processing fee. The second thing is what is your rate of interest. And generally, most education loans don't have any prepayment penalties on it. So just check that. But as far as I understand, most education loans don't have prepayment penalties. And the last thing that you have to check is whether the during your moratorium period is the time when you are studying, right? So education loans work this way. Uh, Education loan is always a sanction. When I say a sanction, in the sense nobody is going to give you that money upfront. So, for example, a bank sanctions 50 lakhs as education loans. What it means is that they have created a corpus of 50 lakhs. I mean, a provision for 50 lakhs for you, not corpus. And you have the option of withdrawing money from that account up to a limit of 50 lakhs whenever you require, but for your education. So maybe in the first, at the beginning of first semester, you feel that okay, I would need only 15 lakhs. You can request the bank to issue pay 15 lakhs. This would be sent to directly to your university, or maybe once you go abroad and open a bank account to your US bank account, whatever is the amount, it could be split, saying that, for you say, okay, 10 lakhs you pay to the universities, 5 lakhs you give it to my account, because I would be needing this for my living cost. So whatever is the split based on your requirements, you can request the bank and they will pay you. uh, Interest is paid only, or rather interest is calculated only on the amount that you disburse. So, say for example, you have a 50 lakh loan sanction, but over the period of your education, you withdraw only 35 lakhs out of that. Effectively, you will be paying interest only on the 35 lakhs. You will not be paying interest on the entire 50 lakhs. This goes with all banks. All education loans follow the same principle. Um, there are some private lenders which, say for example, and Avance does this a lot, or they used to do this a lot. They try to tell students that you will need education loans. Money may not be accepted by universities or education loans. Our education loans are not accepted by the visa people. So the only way to use that is you take the entire disbursement of 50 lakhs in your bank account. The problem with doing that is that the moment they put the money in your bank account, 50 lakhs, you will start paying interest on that. They'll start calculating the interest on that. So don't do that. Even if any bank, any financial institution, or anybody tells you that education loan letters are not accepted by universities or by the visa people, so take a disbursement. I mean, it could be the bank person misguiding you, or it could be some family friend, relative misguiding you. Don't do that. You will only end up paying a lot more interest, because ideally you might need the money in the month of August, and that too not for the entire amount, but only for the duration of the for the first term, I mean, whatever the expenses for your first term. But if you take all the money in your account right now, you will end up paying a lot of interest on the money that you withdraw. So don't do that. An education sanction letter is more than sufficient. So until you actually have to pay your fees, don't withdraw money from the account. So that is one part of it. The second part is how is the interest going to be calculated and what payments do you make during the moratorium period. The moratorium period is the first 2 years or the time. Generally, it will be 2 to 2.5 years period is going to be the moratorium period, which basically is the time when you don't have to make any EMI payments to the lending organization. Okay. So if you take a education loan, you will be given an option to either pay only the interest part during the moratorium period. Some private lenders like HDFC, what they say is that you make at least 5,000 rupees a month as the payments. You can have the option of not paying anything at all during the moratorium period. Okay, but when you're taking a loan, you check with what is your comfort level and what are the bank's requirements on that. If a bank has a restriction that you have to pay at least 5,000, 10,000, or the entire interest amount, because what they do is during that moratorium period, that 2 year period while you're studying, the interest is going to be calculated on a simple interest basis. So honestly, if you can afford to pay it, because you might end up paying lesser money, because whatever money you don't pay, for example, you take a 10 lakh loan and your interest is at 10% per annum, right? So if you're paying it, you will pay only 1 lakh, which is on a simple interest basis. But if you're not going to pay that, or you're going to make only part payments on it, you're going to pay only 5,000 on it, but not the entire 1 lakh. Whatever is not going to be paid is going to be accrued as principal, and you're going to pay interest on it. So effectively, that is going to get compounded. So if you can, as a family, afford to pay the interest on a simple interest basis during your while you are studying, do that. If you can't, I mean, if you can't or you don't want your parents to pay that money, and you want to just use uh, pay it entirely at the end of your once you start earning, once you get a job, that is when you want to start your EMI payments. Absolutely fine, but take that decision based on what your situation is. So when you're getting a loan, try to understand what is the minimum requirement for the payments that need to be done while you're studying, and if you're comfortable with that, do it. But as a recommendation, I would say pay as much as you can. It will just help you save on interest. And most banks, or at least the ones that I know issue education loans, don't have any restrictions on prepay or any prepayment penalties. uh, so I think you should be good, but just it's always wise to check that part. Any doubts about education loans? Okay. Now the reason I'm
Hi,
telling
sir.
about yeah,
I was having one.
ah,
Yeah. During the first 2 years, do they charge the bank charges interest on whatever loan we take? For example, if in first year I have taken 20 lakhs or 30 lakhs,
yes,
will they put on interest on the first 2 years?
yeah, they will put on interest. Everybody will put on interest from the day you withdraw. Okay. So suppose in the
Okay.
first semester you go withdraw 10 lakhs, right? They will start calculating the interest on 10 lakhs from the day they disburse that money. So say on the 1st of August they disburse 10 lakhs, they will start calculating the interest from 1st of August. Now you will have two options. One is, the most banks will calculate this interest on a simple interest basis and give you the option to pay off that money every on a monthly basis. So interest is calculated on a monthly basis, and at the end of, so they'll say, okay, you have withdrawn 10. So you say your interest rate is 10%. So effective interest rate per month might come to something like a 0.8%. So at the end of August, 31st August, or whatever is their interest calculating date, end of the month, they'll say for this 10 lakhs for this month, the simple interest is this much. If you pay it, you will pay it at the simple interest rate. If you don't pay, that money will get accrued to your principal. Or if you do a part payment, whatever is the balance will get accrued to your principal.
Okay.
Okay. But you have to pay only the interest part. you don't have to pay the principal part. So when you're doing EMI payments, right? Uh, Ideally, so because see, if you're only paying the interest part, then your loan will remain in perpetuity. You get that, right? Every month you're paying only the interest, but you're not contributing anything towards the principal. Then your loan remains. So when you're doing an EMI payment of 15 years, the calculation works is that you are expected to make a payment. Say if you're making 1 lakh payment or say 40,000 payment per month, out of that 40,000, maybe 30,000 initially will go to pay the interest, but 10,000 might also go to pay your principal. So effectively, your principal over the 15 years reduces, and that is how your loan gets closed. Right? In any loan, in any, unless you are taking a loan which is like in perpetuity, if you're calculating, then that's a different thing. But otherwise, this is how loans work, right? So if you have a 15-year term, the EMIs that you pay, a component of it is going to pay the principal, and a smaller component initially goes to pay the smaller component pays the principal and larger component pays the interest, and gradually as the loan progresses it shifts, and that is how your principal keeps decreasing and you end up paying off the loan.
But I thought education loans are mostly simple interest based.
No, simple interest is only for the first 2 years.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, during the moratorium period. After that, it is like a normal loan. So
Okay.
if you have not paid the simple interest, right, it gets accrued to your loan. So effectively, say suppose you have taken a loan of 30 lakhs, and there are two cases where one you decide to pay off the interest for the first 2 years, and the other one you don't have to pay off any interest. You decide I will not pay, right? So at the end of second year, if you have paid off the interest, your principal is 30 lakhs. Okay, so your EMIs will be on the 30 lakh loan, but that point it will not be a simple interest loan. It will be a normal. It's like any other, as good as a housing loan or a vehicle loan. So it is an education. It is an education loan of 30 lakhs, and your EMI start on every month. If you have not paid anything for the first 2 years, that accrued interest might be, ideally it should be 3 lakhs at 10%. If it's after 1 year, for 2 lakhs it will be 6. But calculating the interest on that accrued interest, you might end up paying a little more. So your effective loan amount may be around 38 lakhs at that moment and not 30 lakhs
Okay. After 2 years.
after 2 years.
Got it.
So your
Got it.
EMIs
Got
will
it.
be higher at that point.
Yes. Got it.
So as I
Thank you.
said, depending on your financial condition, on what your comfort levels are between you and your parents, you take a call whether you think they can comfortably pay off the interest, pay off during the 2 years. If not, let it accrue, and you will have to make the EMI payments. I mean, your EMI payments will be slightly higher at a later stage. Okay. So again, about education loans, what I wanted to tell you is that um, there are few organizations, like I said, HDFC Credila especially, which is very popular and very one reliable one, and I would recommend that you can go ahead with it. But the only thing is that don't, if you are getting a loan sanctioned from HDFC Credila, I would say get it, but don't hurry up in taking the letter. I mean, if you, I had shared a contact of that HDFC Credila, when you talk to him, don't tell him that I told you this. Okay, so uh, because they will insist on you getting the letter, because to get the letter from them, I mean, say suppose they do a pre-evaluation of your loan, and they say that okay, you are eligible for a loan of say 50 lakhs, and this is the interest at which you are going to get it. Get that information, get it sanctioned, do all the processing, but don't hesitate in taking the letter unless you really need it. The reason I'm saying this is that there are a few banks that are coming up with some more attractive schemes depending on the university that you decide to go to. Like ICICI Bank is planning on has come up with some attractive interest thing where they say that they will give you a loan without a co-signer up to 1 crores. But they have a list of universities where they can sanction the loan for which they can sanction the loan for. So you can approach them ideally only if you have confirmed the university. Similarly, last year and even now, Union Bank of India has a list of 300 universities where they are giving you a non-collateral loan at 10%, provided you have an admit from one of the 300 universities. So these options you can avail only after you have finalized the university. The reason why I would suggest that you get the HDFC loan sanctioned, or rather approved, not don't pay anything and get it sanctioned, is that will help you decide on whether you are, first of all, are there any problems in your loan processing. Um, if generally you don't have any of those doubts, like whether your own CIBIL scores or your parents' CIBIL scores and everything else is very clear, um, then you generally don't have a problem. But if you think that there are going to be doubts, then if HDFC approves your loan, you can be assured that any other bank in India will also approve your loan, because HDFC is generally a little more strict in the approval process. Uh, so that is one part of it. Second thing is, maybe your loan with someone else doesn't work out, so at least you have one backup option to follow. That's the only thing. But if you have almost for certain that yes, your CIBIL scores and other options, I mean other documents are all in order, you might as well wait and get it approved. Maybe later, and you can try banks like, as I said, Union Bank, or maybe ICICI. I don't know what rates ICICI is willing to offer, but they say it will be in the 10 to 11%. So let's hope that they will come up with this. I had you can What you can do is, you can go to the link that I had shared for the education loans. You can put in details there. Someone from our team will contact you and get it done for you. You don't have to visit banks and all that, because again, this Union Bank scheme now, surprisingly, many people in the branch don't know about it. I mean, I had many students who got it last year, but when you go to the branch and ask, as I said, they ask you for documents and a lot of things. Some of the smaller branches don't know about it. They should by now. I mean, I'm not saying that they may not, but some I have had this experience, especially in Mumbai. Almost the branches knew, but in some other towns they said, "No, we don't have that information. We don't have this list and all that." So it is better to just do it online and get it online, get it done online. Yes, I share the link of the education loan again. I'll share it after the webinar. I'll just send it on WhatsApp. Um, okay. I think someone was raising a Tanaya, you were raising your hand for.
Yes, sir. So, sir, as you said, Union Bank, I have checked it out with Union Bank. So, the
Yeah.
thing is, they are providing a non-collateral loan for 40 lakh rupees. And I have confirmed the university. I mean, I'm not confirming the university right now, but whatever universities I've got admit from are there in their list.
Okay.
So, the amount that they are ready to give is maximum of 40 lakhs. And in that, too, they are saying that they would be paying 85% and 15% we would have to pay. So, sir, ultimately, this won't even come to 40 lakhs then. Even the 85% of 40 lakhs is, say, 37, 38 lakhs. So, then,
No. The Okay. Let me tell you how the margin money concept works. So they will pay 40 lakhs. Okay. When they say, okay, when there is a margin money concept, now let me just talk a little bit about that. So Union Bank has a 15% margin money. On that 40 lakhs, let me see if we can get that increased, because I thought last year they were giving a little higher amount. I don't think it was restricted to 40, unless this year they have put in some restrictions, because I know students who have got more than that, or at least that is what I feel. Okay, let me just talk about the margin money. Margin money is that every bank, generally, most of the public sector banks have something called as margin money, and mostly it is 15%. What it means is not that your loan is going to be, if your loan is sanctioned for 40 lakhs, they will pay 40, but provided you have a requirement of more than that. So what happens is, every time, say suppose for the first semester your fees are 10 lakhs, right? And you request the bank for 10 lakhs, what they will tell you is that you first put 1.5 lakhs and we will pay 8.5 lakhs. Okay. So that is how it works. So they will first expect you to put in that 1.5 lakhs from your side. So they will ask you to open an account with them. So they'll say you first deposit 1.5 lakhs in that account, and then that 1.5 lakhs plus 8.5 lakhs from our side, we will then remit to the university. So the university will still get 10, but out of that 10, your contribution will be 1.5, and the university's, the bank's contribution will be 8.5. So that way, now the balance loan that you have is not going to be 40 minus 10, it will be 40 minus 8.5. So effectively, you can do this provided you take a disbursement of more than, I mean, what is 85% of what is 40 lakhs. So whatever is that answer, that is the amount that you will have to take to actually get the complete 40 lakh loan. You got that? So
Yeah,
only
sir,
thing
got
is
it.
basically, I would say disburse, say 47, 48. How much would it come to? 47, 48. I don't have that calculation with me, but if you eventually take a disbursement of 47, 48 lakhs, so say 48 lakhs, out of which 8 lakhs you have paid and 10 lakhs, 40 lakhs the bank has paid. That so the bank will keep paying up to 40 lakhs, but at the same time you will have to need some extra money from your side, 15% every time you ask for a disbursement.
Got it, sir. Yeah, it's 47, 48 only, and
Yeah,
I understood what you said. Thank you so
correct.
much.
Yeah. So just, but then yes, so that is one more thing about taking loans from public sector banks is that you have to be.
Hmm.
Thank you for bringing up this point about the margin money. I completely skipped my mind. So consider that also, because when there is, if there is a margin money, it effectively means that you should have that kind of funds available with you to sustain. I mean, to eventually take advantage of that loan. If you need
Oh,
100% of your
hmm.
funding from loans, then maybe yes, public sector banks are not the best option. Um, I also wanted to tell you about loans that are directly available from in US dollars, especially by companies like Empower Financing, Prodigy, Leap Financing used to do, but I have been told that temporarily they have stopped disbursing new loans, or they are very selective in disbursing loans. So they were planning to start again from the month of April. I don't know that yet, but from the next financial year they were planning to start. But as of now, they may not be disbursing. So maybe check with them. Yes, Varad had a question. I'll take
Yeah,
that.
yeah, Jay. One thing regarding ICICI Bank's loan, when they say like they're giving no co-signer loan, so do they require any FD or something like
No,
they?
no, no. They don't need. Okay, so ICICI Bank has said that they will not need any co-signer. They will
Okay,
still need a Okay, so they will still need a co-signer, but they will not be doing any credit verification on that. In the sense, they will still ask for all details like PAN card, Aadhaar card, phone number, and all of your parents. Ideally, they should be, preferably they prefer them as parents, unless your parents, I mean, don't exist, or for whatever reason they are not willing to be a co-signer. They need it for verification purpose. In the sense, like most banks, when they say co-signer, right, their term as co-signer is that they will basically do a credit verification of these parents. But ICICI Bank says we will not do credit verification. So even if your parents or the co-signer's credit history is very poor, that is okay with them. But they would still verify that these people exist, and they, at the whatever address you say, because in case they have to probably catch someone in your absence for the loan, they know whom to catch, kind of
okay,
thing. Okay,
yeah,
but so they will not be doing a credit check on the co-signer. They will be only giving it on your basis. So that is what their co-signer is. They don't need any collateral.
okay, yeah,
In the sense, they don't need fixed deposits or properties to keep as security.
okay, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so again, coming to Leap, I mean, sorry, Empower and what do you say, loans from Prodigy. So these are loans in US dollars. They again don't need any collateral. They don't need any co-signers. So, and they will sanction the complete loan. I think Empower now does 95% of the I-20 amount for both years, for up to 2 years. And Empower does a complete maximum loan of $100,000. That is what their upper limits are. So, mm, so if you are, of course, total I-20 cost or your requirement for the loan is less than $100,000, which effectively comes to somewhere around 80 lakhs, 85 lakhs, 83 lakhs or something like that. I think Empower can be a good option. You can use Empower if you think you find it difficult to get loans from Indian banks. Um, because maybe they require you. I mean, like for ICICI, they will have a list of universities. So if your university is not in that list, your mm, co-signers are not a very, you don't have very strong co-signers who have a very good credit rating and all those things. Empower or Prodigy can be a good option. Prodigy last year increased their processing fee to 5%. Of course, they don't expect you to pay that 5% processing fee that gets, I mean, upfront. But what happens is every time you take a disbursement, say for example, you take a disbursement of $10,000, uh, 5% of that would be $500. So your effective loan becomes $10,500. So whatever disbursement you take, they keep adding that 5% as the processing fee, and that is how your um, processing fee keeps adding to the amount of disbursement you take. But yes, so that is what they do. So, but most of these Empower and this thing give you loans solely based on your credentials. They also have a list of universities, approved universities from which you should have an admit. But that's a fairly big list. I mean, most popular universities, I think most of the universities that you guys have applied to should be on that list in case one of you is planning to take a loan from that. I would say go with that loan if you think you really can't get a loan from many of the Indian banks because effectively they come out to be slightly expensive. The only time an Empower loan or a Prodigy loan might turn out to be cheaper is in if in the next 2 years the dollar rate falls drastically. Um, then in that case, because what happens is, I mean, just to give you and make you understand what I'm trying to say. Now you are borrowing in rupees, and eventually, when it comes to the time of payment, right, you will basically be you will be earning in dollars and converting that to rupees to pay off your loans. So for example, now if you are borrowing at say 80 rupees, eventually 2 years later, let's say the dollar becomes say 90, let's just for assumption's some sake. So you will need less dollars to, and say suppose you have to pay 1 lakh to the bank, you will effectively need less dollars because the dollar rate is higher, right? But if the dollar rate falls to 70, so you will need more dollars to get that 1 lakh, right? So in the, I mean, eventually by the time you graduate, if the dollar rate has gone up, you will be at an advantage if your loan is in Indian rupees because with that same amount of dollars, you will be able to buy more rupees, and effectively the effective interest rate that you might be end up paying to the bank might be lesser if you actually take this factor into consideration. Also, with Indian banks, with any of the Indian entities. Now, again, when I say Indian banks and Indian entities, it should be a bank like HDFC or ICICI or maybe any private banks. But with Avance or maybe Oxilo and all that, you will not get tax benefit on the loan. Like you cannot claim tax exemption in case your parents or someone who is going to make the interest payments during this next 2 years is planning to claim tax exemption under the section 80E. Then you will not be the loan should cannot be from a private lender, uh, private in the sense these NBFCs. Only NBFC that is allowed to issue an ATE certificate is HDFC Credit Lab. All other NBFCs cannot, like even if you look at Avance or Oxilo or Tata Capital is also coming up with a loan product. I don't know if they would still have that ATE authorization, but banks, be it public sector bank or be it nationalized banks, private banks, cooperative banks, any bank is allowed to issue you an ATE. So if your education loan is from HDFC Credila or a bank, you will get an ATE certificate which can be used by your parents to claim tax benefits. Now again, that depends on how much is the income tax your parents are paying, what bracket they fall in, how much advantage can they get over it. But that is a small provision that is available. So that may be also a factor that you might want to consider when deciding on your education. Okay, coming to the visa point of view. Yes, Varaj, you have a question?
Yeah, one question about this foreign loan providers. Like, since they don't have processing fee, what if I take their
Since they
sanction,
don't have what?
like processing fee for just giving sanction letter? Like,
Uh,
they have processing fee when we take the amount, right? So if I take sanction letter from them for now, okay, and like later I change the loan lender because like I get more time, right? Just for visa approval, I take their sanction letters, and like later I change the loan lender. Would it be issue?
No,
Like
it is not an issue. Generally, you can take. So whether you have paid processing fee or whether you have not paid processing fee, you can anytime change your loan partner.
yeah, like
Okay.
just for now, so that we get more time to decide which Indian loan lender should I take.
Yeah, yeah, you
In
can do that.
yeah,
But most people have now started, because students take advantage of this. Most of them have started taking education. I mean, what do you say? Some kind of processing fee to issue letters.
okay, okay, yeah.
Okay, the only people who didn't do that was Prodigy and I think Empower also. But I think now they have done that. I'm not very sure. You might have to check online.
Okay, okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Um, okay, coming to the visa slots. First of all, see, there is always. I'll put it this way: everybody who wants a visa slot, right, for the first time, gets a visa slot. Okay. Second slots. I mean, if your visa is rejected once, getting a slot is very difficult. Um, Now, what has happened is for the past 2 years, the visa slots they don't keep it open at random like they did earlier, and most visa slots open only at a particular time. Like for example, now the U.S. consulate has said that sometime in the month of May is the only time they will open a visa slot. Now, someone who has a summer starting program, you can always request an emergency visa slot if that is what you if someone has a say a program starting in the month of May and or June, some programs start in summer. If someone is in that situation, just let me know offline, and maybe I can discuss that with them on how to get it. But if you want a visa slot, you will always get a visa slot. So first thing, you don't be. There are YouTube channels, there are a lot of social media posts, some which are not true, some which are created with the whole idea of telling of scaring you, because once you're scared there will be some you will start getting messages and saying that we can guarantee you a visa slot, pay 25,000 to us. Don't fall for all those traps, and don't panic too much about not getting a visa slot. You will eventually get a visa slot, you have enough time. um, Coming to the second part of the question, what documents do you need to be ready for the visa? You do not need any document for the visa. The visa officer is not going to ask for any single document. So don't worry about preparing documents for the visa. To book a visa date, you will need an I-20 from the university that you intend to go to. That is the only document that you need. Of course, you will need a passport. So in case you don't have a passport or a passport is expiring very soon, get a new passport. Um, Beyond that, no other document is required for the visa. Visa processing fee is all you have to pay. So those are the money is something that you'll need, but nothing beyond that. So when it comes to visa, right, there is a lot of misinformation about visas, because the US visa is a very subjective decision making process, right? It depends on the visa officer whether they want to give you a visa or not, and they don't really tell you why they are going in case of visa rejections, right? A visa officer will never clearly tell you why they are rejecting your visa. But I mean, if you follow some of their videos or some of their instructions, the first instruction on their website is that the visa officer is not going to check any document, so they don't need financial documents for the visa. But when you see visas, right, when students start thinking about visa, the first thing that they think of, what document should I carry? And that is where the whole energy is spent. So, if you really want a visa, you just have to be very thorough about two things. One is, why are you planning to study this particular master's? So, when the visa officer is definitely going to ask you this as the very first question, and they are very particular about what answer you give for this. Why do you want to do a master's? Why this university? Why have you chosen this university? Why did you apply to this university amongst the other universities that you have applied to? Why did you select this university amongst your admits? If that is your only admit, then this may not be relevant to you. And what are your plans after you graduate? If you have a very good answer for this, and when I say very good answer, I don't mean a by-hearted answer. I mean a very honest and a genuine answer for this questions. You will definitely get your visa, because the whole idea of the visa interview is to screen students who are genuinely interested in education. That's the only thing that they care about. The second part of the interview, I mean, what they would also ask you is, how do you plan to pay for your education? Now, when they ask you how do you plan to pay for your education, they just want an overview of where the money is going to come from. They just want to assess whether you genuinely have funds to pay for your education. So if you are planning to take an education loan, and when I say planning, it means you are planning. Like today, if I ask you how do you plan to pay for your education, you will give me an answer, right? I, like, for example, Laukik was saying that I am planning to take a like I was just talking to him a few couple of days. He's saying I'm planning to take an education loan from Punjab National Bank. As simple as that, right? That is what the visa officer is expecting. When I asked him how is he planning to pay for your education, he didn't share a document with me on WhatsApp or anything like that, right? So he gave me an answer. That is what you should be giving the visa officer. The problem is, when students think of the visa, they think in terms of documents. So don't try to think in terms of documents. The visa officer is not going to be asking you for your PNB ka loan letter. They'll be asking you questions about the loan. How much is the loan for? What is the interest rate? Why did you go with PNB bank and why not some other bank? They could ask you this, right? But they are not going to ask you for documents. So even if you don't have a letter, right? I mean, even if you have a, say, a loan sanction from HDFC Bank, and coming back to your question, someone's question here was, what if you take a letter for the sake of visa and then eventually don't use that loan? I would say even if you don't take that letter for the sake of visa, but you know for certain that that loan has been sanctioned, even if it is a screenshot of your phone app which says that the loan is sanctioned, or an email from them saying that we have sanctioned your loan, even if you want to carry that document, like HDFC has an app, and you can take a print of that screenshot of that app, or you go to their website where you can see how much is the loan sanctioned and what are the details. Or if they send you an email, congratulations, your loan has been approved, kind of a loan, you can just take a print of that, just for your sake. I'm sure the visa officer is not going to be asking you that, but in the worst case scenario, even if they ask you that and you show them that letter, that is also absolutely fine. They will accept it, right? I have, in the past 20 years that I've been doing this, I have not seen a single case where a visa officer has rejected the visa on the basis of documents. There have also been cases where, in very rare cases, I mean, I would say out of 1,000 students, right? If you say, or not even 1,000, I would say 10,000 students, one student, you might uh, see where the document, where they have even asked for a document. And that is also, I mean, if you see in the past 10 years, I would say that number is almost zero. I mean, I'm saying zero because I have not come across personally or in forums. Before 2010, say in the they used to sometimes ask, very rarely. I mean, if you see my students from 2010 till now, in the past 13, 15 years, nobody has been asked for a single document. So don't worry about the documents part, but you should be always be very thorough with your answers. And when I say thorough, you should be able to communicate properly, answer what is required. We will go over visa questions. I'll go over with you individually, because everybody's answer is going to be different. But stop worrying about what documents you need for the visa. The only document you need is your I-20. Get that from the university that you intend to go to. You can get multiple I-20s, but currently they are going to be useless. It doesn't matter whether you have them or you don't. Unless you have the I-20 of the university that you intend to go to, you cannot go for your visa interview. So, uh, so don't worry about documents. When you think of loans, when you think of funding and all that, think in terms of, okay, how is my actual money going to be coming from? Because see, you can show any document to anybody, you can talk about it, but when it comes to the month of August, and it comes to the time of payment of your fees, you need to be really have a very concrete plan. That time you can't have just emails and documents kind of thing. You need solid money, either in bank accounts, or you need a proper loan sanction that you plan to use and which should be available. So think in terms of that. So plan about your finances without bringing that visa thing in the visa equation in the picture. when you talk about, when you tell the visa officer, be honest about your funding, but more than the funding, be thorough about why this university, why this program, and why now. Especially people who both, I mean, if you're going as a fresher, they will ask you why now. They ask you questions like, why did you think that you should be going immediately after your bachelor's, why not gain experience? People who have been working, they ask you the question on the other way around, why are you going now when you have a very good job in hand? um, so be prepared to answer both questions, whichever your situation is. Be thorough about why this program. Don't try to come up with answers saying that, this has like this university has XYZ accreditations, or they are members of so, or this university was founded in 1955, kind of thing, which are really useless. That use answers which actually help you make decisions. I mean, on why, say, suppose you are choosing to go to, say, UPenn and not NCSU. Why UPenn? Why? What made you, help you make that decision? Your answer should sound very genuine. If you decide to go to NCSU and not ASU, why NCSU and not ASU? If you tell the visa officer, I have admits from these. A general rule, I mean, is that if your university is good and reputed and kind of in the top 50 sort of thing, your visas don't get rejected. Uh, so don't again worry so much about the visa rejection part. Most of you are going to go to good universities, so don't be so worried about the visa rejection part. Uh, if you are, there are few universities. Of course, we don't generally recommend those universities to students. So I don't think any of you are going to some of those universities which are very notorious for getting their visas rejected. And the reason why they are notorious is because they kind of admit anybody who applies. So I think in this discussion, I don't think that is relevant today. So most of the universities that you guys are going to, at least the ones that I see on the screen, are good universities. So don't worry about the visa. Just make sure you get your visa date, and uh, don't worry about the visa date also. So don't panic. Don't fall for traps. Paying money to someone, this thing, and asking them to book it. For some reason, sometimes they visa officers in the past have even caught students saying that, did you use an agent to book a visa date? I don't know how they do that, but maybe they track that there have been logins from various IPs and from different locations, but they have asked these questions to students. So my recommendation is, don't use agents or don't pay money to someone to just book your date. You can do it when slots open. Uh, Follow the Twitter account of the Mumbai Consulate. They of I mean, Mumbai, US Mumbai Consulate. They give generally in advance when the visa slots are going to open. I mean, at least they have in the past. So that can be one source of information. As soon as I get it, I'll shoot out WhatsApp messages to you guys. Um, Anything else about the visa that we, or any questions that have you have? So okay, there's something else I forgot to discuss about the visa. Two points which I thought I had just noted down. One is, of course, about forex. Which we will maybe have a separate session just for forex and maybe loans. If you guys are interested, maybe we can do it next weekend. So sending money from India to abroad, there are various options. There are you can send it through banks. There are private forex. There are online forex and all that. Generally, it's all of them are reliable, but just generally it's a matter of who is more cheaper and who is better. So generally we can, maybe we'll have a separate discussion on that. That is one thing that I wanted to tell you. So don't, if it when it comes to payment of your fees, just check once. I can probably guide you on who is the cheapest or which would be the best option. If you're paying through a loan, sometimes your lending partner might have restrictions on which forex to use. You may not have much choice. But if you're sending from your own personal account, right, whether to go with, generally my experience is that there is a Unimoney is good. Ebix is good for forex. They had some issues with their cards, but Ebix is also good for forex transfers. Unimoney is good. State Bank of India is again offers cheaper rates, but they have a lot of paperwork that you have to go to the bank and do. With others, they either come home or you can do it online. And Flywire, if your university is partnered with Flywire, many universities are partnered with Convera also. So Convera, so there are three major online companies that do forex. In the sense, even if you do it with Unimoney or you do it with State Bank might have their own foreign exchange department, but most of the banks or most of them either send money through either Flywire, Convera, or there is WU Global, Western Union Global. Some of these universities have now directly partnered with one of these partners. Which give you the flexibility of paying in Indian rupees, and then it automatically gets converted to forex and gets paid to the university. If your university is partnered, you could use with them. Even if your university is partnered with, say, a Convera kind of thing, sometimes Flywire can give you a better rate, because what Flywire will do is Flywire will send the money to Convera and Convera will send it to your university. Those options can also be explored. Um, I mean, when I say saving money in the sense, say suppose someone offers you a dollar rate discount of say 10 rupees, 10 paisa, sorry. Uh, that makes a huge saving when, I mean, not a huge saving, but of course, if you're sending $10,000, you will save some thousand rupees on that. So if the money is huge and if it's a 20 paisa or even a 30 paisa difference, right? Generally, you will find that there's a 20 to 30, 10 to 30 paisa difference between various forex. Like if you check State Bank rate, if you check Convera rate and Unimoney rates, so you will find a plus or minus 20, 30 paisa difference. But if you're transferring $20,000, it comes to 3, 4,000 rupees. So that is what is the difference. But otherwise, all are almost equally good. Everybody follows RBI restrictions. So if you're paying more than 7 lakhs per year, they will deduct TDS. So those rules are applicable. Maybe we'll discuss that in a separate thing. Um, about the visa waiver program, now there were visa waiver programs basically was available 2 years ago, and anybody who had a US visa that was issued after the age of 14 uh, qualified for that visa waiver program, which basically means that you don't have to, it was not a visa waiver program, it was a visa interview waiver program, which means that you didn't have to attend an interview. You could use the Dropbox facility to get your visa. That was till 2023 December. Now that they have continued that program, but they have removed the clause of having a B1, B2 visa, which means that if you have a tourist US visa, you don't qualify for a interview waiver program. They say that if you have any other visa other than a tourist visa, you may qualify for the interview waiver program. So if someone holds a tourist visa that was issued to you after the age of 15, you will currently not qualify for a interview waiver program. You will still have to attend the interview like a normal student. So Sarang, there is okay, I think your question is, do visa officers check social media accounts? So they don't really check your social media accounts in your this thing, but in your application, right? When you fill a DS 160 visa form, there is a field that asks you about your social media this thing. I don't think anybody checks that manually because manually they may not have access to it, but they have authority to check it if they want to. And the only time that becomes a problem if you have a lot of anti-US content on your website, on your social media handles. If you don't, really, it doesn't matter. Okay, so if someone of you are are you have something of that thing like that, I would say it is time to remove that or clear that thing. But if you don't have any of if your US social media handle doesn't have any objectionable content that the US government will feel is either a threat to their government or to them, or you have a lot of anti-US content on that, you don't really need to worry about it. Yeah, so Gaurav, what I'm saying is that if you had a tourist visa earlier issued to you after the age of 14, I mean, if you had a B1, B2 visa issued to you after the age of 14, you still qualified for the interview waiver program. But now they have said that you qualify for an interview waiver program if you have any other visa other than a B1, B2 visa. That is what they have made that change. So effectively, what it means that if you have a tourist visa, you cannot apply for an interview waiver program. You will still have to attend an interview like any other student. Uh, Yeah, so Devarshi, I mean about booking your visa slot in a council. You can pick up any consulate in India, and now they have allowed you to book consulates outside India also. Uh, you basically don't have to stick to the consulate where your address is closer. That was there some 10 years back. Now you can just pick up any consulate that you are comfortable with. If you stay in Delhi, you can book a date in Calcutta, you can book it in Mumbai, Chennai, Hyderabad, wherever it is. Wherever it is, it is first available and you are willing to travel to. So you can actually book it in Dubai and other places also. Um, Not that I would recommend that, but sometimes I have had students whose parents stay in these countries, and that's the reason why it was. I mean, of course, so maybe sometimes they just go there and have attended their interviews. People have done that also in the past, so there is no restriction now on where can you book, which consulate can you book your visa slots at. Just because you have gaps in your career, your visa will not get rejected. So, Sakshi, don't worry about that part. As long as you should have a reason why you had that gaps, what did you do in that gap, and whatever was your reason or explanation for the gap. If you can probably explain that, you should get a visa. So anything is your profile. As long as you can explain what you have done and why you have done it, you will get your visa. So don't worry about the gaps part of it. So there is no reason that okay, if I have a gap, I'll get my visa rejected, or if I had backlogs, I'll get my visa rejected. None of these actually matter. Any other question for today, or I think we have it's almost 1.5 hours, so we'll wrap up today's session. And as I said, maybe we'll try to do a session. I mean, I'll see if I can get someone to talk about the forex and maybe loans also, specifically, so that we have a discussion on that. And maybe from April end onwards, we will do more sessions directed towards US visas. Plus, once you guys have finalized the university's booked visa dates, I'll also have one-on-one discussions with you about your visa interviews. So that will happen mostly in the month of June, July, or May. May, I don't think many dates will open. Most of the dates would actually, although they may open up dates in May, but those dates would be for June. So most of your visa interviews would be in June or July, unless someone is going for a summer program, which is like a May, just June intake or something like that. Only then I think we get in touch with me and we can see what is the earliest date you can book. But if you have received an I-20 of a university that you are planning to go to, keep checking. Sometimes random dates open up, maybe not in bulk, but if you're getting a date, and if you're getting a date for even tomorrow, right? You have an I-20 today. If you're getting a date for tomorrow, book it. I would say don't worry that, oh, I'm not prepared. I don't have the documents. All document you need is a passport and I-20. If you don't have that, then of course that's a problem. But if you have that, just go ahead and give your visa in. You will get your visa. I can guarantee you that. Okay. So by then, and I'll share the recording of this video in case you guys have missed the starting part or you want to watch it again. Okay.
Jay, one quick question.
Yeah, please.
As you said, we need to keep checking for the visa slots opening. So where exactly we should check it? Is it the Twitter handle which you mentioned or
No, so
anything?
on the Twitter handle, they mention about bulk openings, right? So
Okay.
they will say on the 15th of May, we will open dates for visa for June slots will open on the 15th of May. So once you know that, okay, they are going to open bulk dates on the 15th of May, on the 15th of May only you
Yeah.
can check. But say, suppose you already have an I-20, you can maybe once a day you can go and check on the visa. So on the visa application page, right? Once you have paid the visa application fee, you will basically see a calendar. So
Okay.
so it's a process. I mean, you can follow that process. I have a video on that. But once you have created an account, once you have paid the fee, the next screen that you see is the calendar. You cannot see that calendar until you have paid the visa application fee. So
Okay.
that page, so every time you log in, you will come to that page directly, and it will show a calendar and it will show no dates are available. Right, but suddenly you see, okay, one date is available, go ahead and book that date.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, bye.